From California, Ms. Lofgren is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before asking any questions, I would like to ask unanimous consent to put some material in the record. Some have questioned the Secretary's legal authority to set immigration enforcement priorities and exercise prosecutorial discretion on a case-by-case basis. And so I would like to enter into the record the Supreme Court's recent decision that explains immigration officials have broad discretion, including whether it makes sense to pursue removal at all. A memorandum by the Congressional Research Service analyzing the Secretary's memorandum, a May 28, 2012 letter from 100 law professors to our President addressing the Executive's authority to grant administrative relief, a November 4, 1999 bipartisan letter establishing prosecutorial discretion as well established and well grounded in case law, and a November 17, 2000 memorandum by then INS Commissioner Doris Meisner laying out the authority for exercising prosecutorial discretion.
Okay. Without objection.
I would also ask unanimous consent to put in the record statements from the faith community, including the Evangelical Immigration Table, the U.S. Catholic Conference of Bishops, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society in support of the President's DREAM Act announcement.
Okay, without objection.
As well as letters from labor leaders in support of the President's DREAM Act announcement.
Okay, without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am mindful that we are joined today in this hearing by Eliel Acosta, who was brought to the United States by her parents to the United States when she was 3 years old, Harith Andrade, who was only 8 when he was brought to the United States, Exi Guardado, who was only 3 when he was brought to the United States, Karen Vallejos, who was just 5 years old when she was brought to the United States. These are wonderful young people who have achieved great things in their education. And I always, every time I go to speak to a school, whether it's people getting their PhD in physics or whether it's a law school or whether it's a high school, some young person will come up and say, I'm a DREAM Act kid. And of all of the people who deserve our consideration, it's these young people. So I would like to thank you, Secretary Napolitano, for the action that you have taken to allow these young people I think of as de facto Americans. I mean, this is their country, but the papers aren't in order, for taking the step that you did that will allow them to live normal lives until we get our act together here in the Congress. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Representative.
I would like to note that in the process of getting our act together, we did in fact, the House did in fact pass the DREAM Act in December of 2010, and it got 55 yes votes in the Senate, but because of their crazy rules, we couldn't get 60 votes to pass it. So hopefully we will have an opportunity once again to pass that DREAM Act and also to reform the law top to bottom. It does need reform in so many different ways. I have a concern that I would like to raise about the implementation of the applications, and it's not about your department, it's about people who would prey on young people. Every time there is an announcement, there are unscrupulous people who will go and try and charge people, notary publics who will say you need to pay us this or that. And I'm hopeful that the department will take some steps. I mean, there is no reason why a de facto American who's an 18-year-old kid on the honor roll needs to go pay some fee to a lawyer or to a notary public or anybody else to get this application underway. Have you thought about some efforts we might make to make sure that unscrupulous people don't take advantage in this situation?
Representative, yes, and the whole issue of, say, notarios fraud, which has been a perennial problem in immigration, we're trying to address it in a couple of ways. outreach, working with different faith-based and advocacy groups and with student groups and others. The application itself is available online. It will be based on existing application forms. There will be a fee associated with the application, as I think all of us understand.
That's fine.
But we're going to do that, and then I'm going to reach out to the Justice Department themselves to see if through the U.S. Attorney's Office they can help us in this regard.
I'm glad to hear that, and I think it's something that members themselves can help on in our own communities. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the DREAM Act, because for many years we worked together on this, and I'll never forget the late Paul Gilmore, who was a very conservative man. There are many things we didn't agree on, but he called me and described a young man in his little town in Ohio who was the valedictorian at the high school. He was the quarterback on the football team, and he went to go get a document, and it was only then that he was told that he wasn't born in the United States. He said, well, I'll straighten this out. I'll go down to the government, federal government, and straighten this out. So he went down the day before Christmas, and they put him in handcuffs. And the little town was outraged. And Congressman Gilmore understood, he did a private bill, but he also understood this issue in a way that was visceral. And that conservative Republican put his name on the DREAM Act as a co-sponsor. So I'm hopeful that as we move forward, we can get the kind of consensus that we once had on this issue, and that we're able to do the right thing, not only for these young people, but for our country, because they are part of a rich future for our country. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Okay.